NTV.
Morning at NTV. We're live from Kampala Serena Conference Center. This is Andrew Chamagiro, Muntu Wansi, and today we're going to discuss something that is before the courts of law. Now, yesterday we had some lawyers. I'll start with George Mosisi, who is here with me. Good to have you, Counsel, this morning. We're discussing a very patent issue here. And you, together with Nagami Gloria, if I should say, working with a network of public interest lawyers, petitioned the High Court seeking orders to have the Electoral Commission reopen the updating of voters' registers exercise so as to enable all Ugandans that turned 18 in 2020 to participate in the 2021 general elections. Well, please note that the last exercise, the registration ended on 23rd December 2019, if I'm right. So what is this the entire wave that is coming through to register those who became 18 after that date?
Thank you, Andrew, and good morning to the viewers. One, we are looking at this as a rights issue.
Okay.
The Constitution provides that every person who is 18 years is eligible to participate in the elections.
True.
Secondly, the Constitution places a duty onto the government to take all practical steps to ensure that people exercise that right. Now, we think that elections, especially general elections, is too important an issue to lock out people, especially if they are willing to participate in the elections. If you look at the projections of both NIRA and Uganda Bureau of Statistics, we have over 1 million people. Actually, if you look at those who turned 18 between December to date, there are over 900,000 people turning 18. Now, we are strongly cognizant that registration cannot take place until for polling day. We know Electoral Commission needs time to prepare a register.
Yes.
However, we are looking at the duty of the state, which is that government to take all practical steps to ensure people exercise this right. And we think that stopping registration in December, possibly 13 months before a general election, is too big a period to ignore, to lock out such people. And we are also looking at some of the presidential petitions which have reached the Supreme Court in the recent past, the 2016, 2011, and 2006, where a court was very emphatic on the issue of disenfranchisement of voters, because we believe this is one issue which is taking away all the rights of these people. Even if you're looking at the free and fairness of the vote, you are taking away a candidate from a potential over 1 million people reaching them. Those could be swayed to whatever candidate. So we think that whereas the Electoral Commission has always argued that it needs time to prepare a clean register, we think that possibly 6 months could be a reasonable period. And we're also looking at some of the comparative practices elsewhere. For instance, our neighbors in Kenya, registration takes place up to 6 months before the general election. And we believe that in 5 months, the Electoral Commission can come up with a register.
With the work of COVID-19 in play and the modalities changing, George, what could be the ideal approach to this? Because ideally we should have done it through schools. While they're at school, they are registering, and we can update the data from UNEB or whichever to NIRA, and we are aligned. What could be the ideal model in the work of COVID-19?
First of all, these calls for Electoral Commission to ensure that it includes these people or extends was even in December, before the government was adversely affected by COVID-19. So they stopped in December, saying that their roadmap begins in April. Two, many of these people could not even be in school. Yes, many could be in school, but many could not be in school. And we remember 4 years ago, Electoral Commission borrowed a database from NIRA. That means that they even have some of these projections they can anticipate, because NIRA registered people when they are 16, knowing that they know in a year or two, people will be turning 17 and 18. Therefore, Electoral Commission, even using some of those projections, could know that possibly we are preparing, anticipating not more than 500,000 voters, or not less than this number. So what could be done? We believe that an electoral register is not cast in stone, and we believe that even if you opened up, you reviewed and opened up the window for maybe an extra week or two, and you have regulations in place, this register can still be amended. However, secondly, and perhaps most importantly, we think that this can help court can issue guidelines even for future elections, that Electoral Commission should not stop registering people a year before the general election. We believe that can even help the elections in future. If we can get a declaration, because among the prayers we're seeking from court are declarations that how is this right supposed to be enjoyed? What practical steps is government envisaged to take under constitution in ensuring that people exercise this right?
Okay. But are the numbers, the youth, the ones who have turned 18, are they interested in election? Has sensitization really gone down to the ground that they understand their right and they understand their duty that comes with their right to voting?
Well, Andrew, whether they're interested or not, I can't answer that right now. I'm looking at, because even Article 59 of the Constitution is clear. It says that if you're 18, you're eligible to vote. It gives you have a right to vote. So
whether you know or
having
you
a right means that I can choose to exercise it or not. So what the state's duty is to ensure that they do everything possible
for my right to stay in the land,
for your right to be there, such that the discretion is upon you to exercise it or not, other than me being locked out without a chance of deciding whether to choose or not. Yes.
Okay, well, looking at all this that is happening, what could be the way forward for this? Because the Electoral Commission is saying that it's in a timely moment. It just has few months to organize elections, which elections it has come out adequately and say that it's going to be scientific. So can we have these registers being done scientifically? Have you tried to explore that option for EC? Because you see, whenever you're coming with the castigation of something, you must provide solutions.
That's true. One, purely speaking from a legal point of view, I don't think even a scientific election is envisaged under our laws. Maybe it's something novel that Justice Wakama is and his commission are trying to put up. But however, what can be done? One of the things we are seeking, we are seeking a review of the register. Electoral Commission's biggest concern has always been that we need time to prepare.
Yeah.
And the reason why they need time is
and
possibly...
the resources.
Yes, most importantly, the resources. The reason why they need time is because of the resources. The state not providing the resources.
Oh, yes.
And we are looking at it from that, holding the state to account. Actually, this is not even largely the EC, and that's why we should the EC and the Attorney General. The state must provide the resources to ensure that Electoral Commission, even if it needs a new register in 1 month or 3 weeks, it should be able to provide the resources to do it. Because that is the duty. That is why we are looking at this not as an election complaint. We are looking at it as a rights issue, saying that a person is given a right and the state has a duty to ensure that they enjoy that right, and the state has not fully provided that right to be enjoyed.
So that's what you're seeking for?
Yes.
To those who were registered and possibly they have not been captured with regards to the updating of the registers, many people came out and said, last time I was on this list, I'm not on the list anymore, yet I went and I updated my register credentials. Does this petition cover all those bits? Because there are those who are just being sidelined, not to vote.
Of course, the biggest issue that we intend to focus on largely is the issue of disenfranchising of voters. And that can take place in different ways. One, the major we're looking at mainly of people not being given a chance to register, then people registering and their names not coming out on the register, then people registering or switching polling stations, and then they don't appear on any. So those are some of the problems we've had, and these problems have reached all the way up to the Supreme Court in the 3 presidential petitions we've had in this 1995 Constitution. So we believe that we shall be able to persuade court to look at it, to look at the bigger issue of disenfranchisement of voters as a rights issue. And most importantly, what I want to emphasize, Andrew, is the duty of the state in ensuring
to provide
the duty of the state to provide whatever, to do what, because when the question says to do whatever it takes, it means that you provide whatever funds to ensure that people enjoy this.
Have you tried to explore the possibility of scientific registration? And if it's going to happen, does the Electoral Commission have the capacity to roll it out and the register?
I imagine that by scientific election you envisage maybe e-registration.
Yes.
Well,
without coverage of internet, of course.
Yes, the Electoral Commission has a duty the Electoral Commission Act is gives the Commission a right and duty to maintain a clean and proper register. How do they do that? Of course, it's a matter of modalities. However, of course, with the practical challenges of this country, with low internet coverage, with low IT illiteracy, there could be other challenges. However, for me, I see no problem with having a hybrid. For instance, for institutions that you're talking about, you can have e-registration at Makerere University, assuming all was normal. You can have e-registration for those who can, because we believe that even a big number of these people who are locked out have some bit of illiteracy. So there's no problem with trying out a hybrid as long as you still keep within the duty. I have a problem with using one method.
Approach.
Yes, because of course, if you say scientific, together with all our challenges as a country, which we
the
SOPs,
SOPs,
I have a feeling that you may not envisage a free and fair election that is provided for under the Constitution.
Okay, now that's the good conversation I want to get into now. You believe if the registration is not updated and it's not giving the ones who have turned 18 years of to practice their right, it won't cover the entire population voice when it gets to election time?
That's true, because we believe if you're looking at what amounts to a free and fair election, it means a candidate, every candidate, being given space to reach out to the electorate and possibly persuade them, and they either choose him or her or reject him or her based on what they have heard. So if you are looking a candidate, any candidate by the way, from reaching a potential over 900,000 people, even if you bring it back, because we've seen some of these challenges. Remember the presidential petitions, even the last one of 2016, the Supreme Court decided that yes, whereas there are irregularities, but these irregularities were not so substantial given the numbers. So it's also about the numbers. So you are saying that a candidate can go and campaign and have an election where over 1 million potential voters have not been reached or have not been given a chance to participate because of the EC, which is mandated to hold a free and fair election. So for me, it goes back to the whole issue of having a free and fair election. That will this election be free and fair when a number of voters, a big number, a substantial number of voters, to use the words of the Supreme Court, have not been reached or have not been given a chance to participate.
Is this the first event of the kind that they stopped registration of the ones who have turned 18 ever since we started the election?
No, it's not the first.
Then why are you coming up now?
We are coming out now because it's also about operationalizing some of these rights in the Constitution. Because I can give.
So previously you could not see that it was actually being defranchised.
Previously, of course, there were so many other issues that were being engaged, and of course, we also know that the commission and the manner in which it organizes elections has always been getting better with more engagement. So just like you saw Judge High Court recently saying that the commission should take into account people who are in the diaspora, even the prisoners. This has also not been happening, but it's about also operationalizing all the articles of the Constitution to ensure that we get some sort of judicial pronouncements on some of these rights which are stated in the Constitution.
The timeliness of it coming out now is another question. The nation, do you believe the state has the funds to do all this? Much as they're going to say that we don't have the funds and all that, we're in COVID-19, we are changing the modalities of voting and election as a nation? Well, or you don't want to assume?
It's just actually the state has no option but to have the funds. It's just like any other right of saying that every person who is arrested must have a free and fair trial. You cannot say that I've been arrested but there's no money to take you to court, or you've been convicted but there's no money to keep you in prison. So it's just like any other right. And actually, if anything, we believe elections are not just a ritual. It's not just something we should go through. It's something that gives every citizen a right to participate, to choose the direction, to have a civic voice in whatever is happening in your country. So the state has no option but to get the funds.
That said, do you come from the school of thought that possibly it could be extended if these modalities are not fixed, these glitches within electoral commission?
The election or the registration? The
election to be postponed, because you want every person's voice to be heard. In the work that this is not happening, what becomes of your petition?
Well, postponement of elections, of course, beyond May, because we have fixed terms for the presidency and the parliament. I think it's a work of we would have to amend the constitution, and of course by amending the constitution to change the term or postpone the term requires a referendum, which may not be feasible.
It's
given
costly
the times.
implicated.
Yes, even the terms and all. So I don't come from that school of thought of saying that we postpone. I believe that the state has the funds to ensure that we have a clean register. I believe that
all
the
you
state
need
should
is
provide
a clean register.
a clean register for participating in the elections.
So how do we achieve this? Now that everything, because you're in court, of course, but we want solutions. Have you tried to share some of these modalities with this? Okay, what happens if court says, okay, now we need to have an overhaul take on this? We have the 18s and above and the new 18s to be registered. How are we going to go about it? What could be your approach?
Well, one, whether we're trying to engage the ECS. We wrote to the EC before going to court,
Okay.
bringing this to their attention. Actually, the letter was addressed to Justice Simon Biabakama. Of course, we received no reply, and that is why we went to court. How do we achieve this? We believe that a register is not cast in stone, Andrew. And we also believe that it's not biblical, that it will be sacrilegious to any attempt to change it. We just believe in doing things in an orderly manner. However, like I said, we are also not looking at this election as an end in itself. Just like the other day when Justice Mugambe ruled that people in the diaspora have a right to vote, EC went back to court this week saying that maybe practically it may be impossible to have the people in the diaspora vote in these elections. So we believe that even if we don't get what we achieve, because sometimes with public interest cases, you may not get your results, or you may not be doing it for the sake of this election. If we get a court pronouncement, and maybe if we get it when it's too late, it might help future elections. We don't want EC closing out registration in the next elections a year before elections. Possibly it will also help the future elections. So we don't believe that this election is an end in itself. Okay. Even if we don't get the pronouncements, even if we get the judgment so late, we believe that it can help future elections.
Ideally, what could be the ideal month to stop the registration before election?
If you look at some of the comparative practices, and most especially from progressive democracies like South Africa and progressive democracies that we aspire to be to.
South Africa, Botswana.
South Africa, Botswana, Kenya, because Kenya has quite a good constitution and a robust judiciary. They stop 6 months before the general election. Okay. So that's why I believe that, and then the state does whatever it takes to ensure that a register is compiled and elections, the process can begin.
6 months to elections?
Yes.
Wow. I was stopped in December 23rd.
2019.
And 2019.
Yes.
That's a full year.
That's a full year.
Without registration.
Yes.
Wow. This case is happening. Were we given another day for this case to appear before the court?
We applied for a certificate of urgency because courts have entered court vacation where they don't hear civil cases. So we believe that it's going to be given, because it's a rights issue and the timeliness of it, we believe that we're going to get a very quick date to ensure that it's disposed of quickly.
With the work of the new technologies around and technology being at the forefront of the new election where we're going, it's a novel change and everyone seems to be going that way. How can technology help us achieve this?
Of course, technology in itself is not an end as well, because it needs other enhancers. For instance, technology could come in handy, for instance, for registration, assuming we had internet coverage, which is nationwide. If you look at our internet coverage, even if you use the UBO statistics, it's less than 10% of the population. Okay. So it's quite hard to imagine that technology can help when we have. Then you look at the coverage of radios, you look at the coverage of TVs, and then leave around the coverage by the access by the population. Okay. Because NTV could be received countrywide on the digital forums. However, how many people can access it in the rural digitally? So those are some of the challenges why technology may not be an end, may not be even workable in our current economic circumstances. So you need even if you look at electricity coverage by itself,
7%.
7% of the so it could be really a challenge.
Okay, that is Mr. George Mosisi, and he's coming from a very great organization. They're looking at entirely having the EC not deny the Ugandans who turned 18 earlier this year to have a right to vote. They're working with a network of public interest lawyers, and they need Electoral Commission to give a chance to those who turned 18 this year and earlier last year, rather late last year, to make sure they have a voice to vote. So you and I can be a part of this conversation when the court case will be running, and we see how it's going to happen, because 2021 is coming through. Mr. Msisi here doesn't believe that technology is going to help us here. It's the state to give the funds,
Sure.
and EC to speak to the
implement.
powers that be,
Yes.
and it rolls out.
Sure.
That will help us.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank
That will
you,
take us for a break, and we'll be back shortly with more conversation. It's entirely about leadership as we're heading to 2021. Much more is still at stake. The conversations on what leadership we're taking and the modalities we're using in the wake of COVID-19, everything seems to be in a changing wave. We'll be back shortly.